From the ECSI Sports Studios and the #1 sports investors in America, we bring you the closing bell. As the market closes, legends Jeff Dawson and Riley Magnuson bring you all the sports investing tips for tonight's matchups. If you want to learn more from the two legends at the desk, make sure you stay tuned to the closing bell. ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all of your sports books and track all of your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You can also sign up for sportsbooks and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as they're the best account on the platform. Head to the App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire to download the app.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co-host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your closing bell for Monday, November 27th, 2023. I'm still shaking my head. The last Monday in November, as we turn the clocks back a few weeks ago, we will turn the page and head into December. 'Tis the season. And if my math is correct, which usually it's not, I think we got like 35 days left in the year 2023. I remember not too long ago, me and Riley were talking All-Star break. We were talking August baseball. We were talking the start of football. And now we just concluded week 12 in the NFL. Myself and Riley will do what we do on Mondays. We'll do a recap. I'll try to abbreviate it so it's not an hour and a half. I know you guys don't have an hour and a half to hang out with us. And then we'll get yourself set up for the Bears and Vikings tonight. Some college hoops, a little NHL. So shout out to the gentlemen behind the desk, Joseph Shea and Evan Lewis. And a shout out to our proud sponsorship and partnership with WagerWire. If you have not downloaded the app, please head on over to Google Play or wherever you download your apps. Download it. It's free. Myself and our team are going to be doing a lot of work. I like to say editorials, tutorials, educational pieces on the benefits of what WagerWire can do for you and your investments. That's right. I said investments, not gambling, not entertainment, but we're trying to get serious here where you're actually tracking your bets, keeping track of your ROI. And on this app, there's some great sports books there where you can get some promo plays, some free wagers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And seeing that we have less than a month till Christmas, why not make some flashcasts with WagerWire? Send us an email or send them an email actually to affiliates at wagerwire.com. Zach, Travis, the rest of their team and community will take good care of you. So without further ado, it's been a few days. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I know we started it off great because the Packers won at Detroit. Great game from the Packers and the best game of Jordan Love's career. So without further ado, let's bring him in, the one and only Mr. Riley Magnuson. Good afternoon, Riley.
Oh, good afternoon, my friend. I got to get my mic ready to roll. So I am ready and rocking and rolling here for a new week, my friend. Fresh out of Thanksgiving. I hope it was good for you and yours as well as everybody listening. You know what? It did start off nicely in the NFL for me. Far cry from a couple weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, of 3-6 and doom and gloom. So the tides are turning a little bit here. Obviously, tough game on Sunday night. But nonetheless, liking what we're seeing in Packerland the last few weeks. Apologize. Maybe it's not an issue, but very cold and windy where I am today. So hopefully the internet is on my side and not backstabbing me because it is getting a little nasty over here. But aside from that, yeah, obviously, big week. You're a better, at least in the NFL, not so much in college football. Big weekend if you're a week in the NFL. 12-3, I believe I saw heading in tonight. I don't think there's ever been 13 favorites that cover a spread, so I'm sure we'll get to that when we talk about tonight's game. But 12-3 to the number for favorites this week. NFL, obviously, college football we'll talk about because not really too many upsets, but obviously some close calls and some great games. So I'm ready to roll, my friend. And happy to start a new week. Glad to see you on the other side of Thanksgiving in one piece as always.
You talked about the 11-3 to the favorite, 12-3. The prime time unders, I think, right now are 11-2, and so we'll get into that as well. Already talked about your Packers early and often. The kind of writing was on the wall, I thought, from the week before, where the Bears had a 12-point lead late in the fourth quarter, and the Lions were miraculously able to come back and win that game. But Packers played an absolute great game, start to finish. Lions made one little push, but the Packers said not so fast and took care of business there. And then we move into the Dallas-Washington game, and it was just like, Dallas at home their last month has been printing money. They've been getting to 40 with their eyes closed. Sam Howell in Washington actually didn't play that bad of a first half, kind of ran out of gas in the second half. And then the late game, again, Sam Fran just rounding into form. The 12th man really didn't have much to say. You could tell Gino was not 100% there as they take care of business there. And then Friday and Saturday, we had the college football action. I guess where I'll start here in the big house, a great game, absolute great game. I just never bought into Ohio State. And last year, their one loss to Michigan, they were able to backdoor in. I will just, if anyone here is watching and listening and is an Ohio State fan, I apologize. There is zero chance. Absolutely zero. Well, when I say zero chance you're getting into the Final Four. Now, theoretically, you're not mathematically out. I mean, if Texas lost, I don't know. There'd have to be a list a mile long. Actually, Georgia would have to beat Alabama. Texas would have to lose. Let me see. Michigan would be in. Georgia would
Florida State
be
lost
in.
as well,
The winner of the Pac-12 would be in. Yeah, Florida State. Okay, so there's your scenario right there. Texas loses, Florida State loses, and Alabama loses. Then you got a leg to stand on, and that's as far as I'll go right there.
And Washington's got to beat Oregon too, I think.
The Pac-12's in. Either Oregon's in or Washington's in. So you get Georgia.
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd get Georgia, you'd get Washington. I'm sorry, you get Georgia, you get Michigan, you get the Pac-12, either Oregon or Washington. And then for Ohio State to get to the dance, you would need those losses.
Right. No, that's kind of what I was saying. But even so, it wouldn't surprise me if let's say everything except for, let's say, Oregon beats Washington, wouldn't surprise me if a one-loss Washington who had already beaten that Oregon team slipped in ahead of them. So I would say and now you got two Pac-12 teams in that crazy scenario that we're putting together there. Maybe I'm stretching a little bit there, but it wouldn't hurt if there was a two-loss team and only one Pac-12 team is guaranteed, I guess is what I was trying to say.
And the comedy is, again, Ohio State, you played an okay first half. Michigan started flexing their muscles. You got down 10, you cut it. You had the ball with a chance to win the game. Get about to get sacked, throw the ball, interception. Thanks for playing. So then you think the day is over, and then you go to the Iron Bowl, and what an effort by Auburn. And listen, if you gave Alabama 100 chances on that fourth down, they would have made it once. And that's all it took was once there. Just absolutely bedlam. And the good thing about it is now the SEC championship game is still alive, because even if Georgia would have got upset by Alabama, I think a one-loss Georgia team still would get in. Now, at this point, I don't think they want to play that game because Alabama wins, they're in. And then we won't go back down painting the popsicle headache scenarios. But the fact of the matter is now Georgia has climbed to a 5-point favorite. I think it'll be a good first half. If Georgia keeps playing the way they're playing, like in that Ohio State-Michigan game, Riley, I think they'll wear them down and they'll catch them by 7 or so.
Right, and shoot, Georgia, I mean, this was the worst that Georgia looked in a long time, but I mean, you can't really blame them for overlooking a Georgia Tech team who's barely had a pulse the last 10 years there. So that one was interesting to see it as close as it was, but like I said, you can't really blame them for looking past Georgia Tech a little bit there. So no, I can't add too much as we're shifting a little bit. The game that it does appear to be, I mean, Bo Nix is minus 160, 180, whatever it is now to win Heisman. But Jaden Daniels, if anyone, obviously everyone was watching Ohio State, Michigan on the side. I had Texas A&M and LSU, and LSU almost, got upset by Texas A&M double-digit dog there, and that would have ended Jaden Daniels' Heisman campaign instantly while we were all watching Ohio State, Michigan. They pull it out, and he ends up putting a big number up there. But like we said, obviously Bo Nix is kind of pulling away anyways, getting these wins. But that was kind of an very underlying subheading to Saturday's day was that LSU Texas A&M game, which was honestly very entertaining. But obviously they end up pulling that one out altogether there. But no, aside from that, I mean, Washington close call is the only other one where Michael Penix, I think, someone still is trying to pull him out of the whatever that was, where he couldn't watch the field goal there. So good on them. And then Florida State obviously takes care of business against Florida. It was a pretty close game for most of it. Credit to their defense for stepping up and doing what it did. But interested to see what we get out of Florida State this upcoming week for the ACC championship there.
Yeah, I think the committee and the rest of the nation's hoping Louisville upsets them so they don't do them dirty here and an undefeated season, and they don't get them in there. Listen, if Georgia beats Alabama, if Washington beats Oregon, Michigan does what it does, then I think they might, an undefeated Florida State team would get in over a one-loss Texas. Now would be a two-loss Oregon team. Am I leaving anyone out? Alabama would have 2 losses. They're out. No. So if you're a Florida State fan, beat Louisville, root for Georgia, and just root for Washington. Just get it over with. So then you could have 4 undefeated teams in there, and then you guys can just battle it out. And I think that would be the best case scenario for Florida State.
But would you rather see Georgia versus Florida State without Jordan Travis, or Georgia versus Texas is the other answer that, or other question that hopefully doesn't matter as much as far as the integrity of this type of selection process. But I mean that matchup alone doesn't sound too enticing to me. And Georgia, if they win, getting the 1 seed and rolling over Florida State without Jordan Travis there.
Well, if you want the best 4 games, Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Oregon 3, Texas 4. Oregon wins, they'll jump to 3. I would say Oregon would be a 1-point favorite over Michigan. I just retweeted Jeffrey Benson's odds to win the championship, and right now Michigan is plus 185, Georgia plus 195 there. So I asked him if a Georgia-Michigan was playing in the championship game, would you have Michigan -1 or a pick 'em? He hadn't replied yet. But a Georgia-Texas, you'd probably have Georgia around 7 or 8. And then I think Oregon would be 1.5 against Michigan. I think those would be your best 2 games.
Oh, I'm with you for sure. No, I'm with you for sure. And like you said, I think most people are just rooting for Florida State to bow out this weekend as opposed to sitting on it and seeing if we get them. But, I mean, shoot, obviously they didn't look fantastic offensively the other day, but we've seen not only a second string but a third string quarterback come in Cardale Jones and win a national championship before. So I don't think it's the same situation as that one is, but it's at least happened before to give them some credit there.
Shout out to Mr. Saylor. Um, he says Florida State and the Colts both might make the playoffs, but without a QB, they're dead on arrival. Mr. Saylor, I know you got that 6.9, almost 7-1 Bo Nixon pocket. Oregon is where are they? 9.5 point favorites over Washington. I was going to actually ask you, did you buy any Jaden Daniels for the hedge, or are you just riding out the 7-1 here and hopefully Bo comes in? Like I said, listen, Washington at Oregon at Washington a few weeks ago. I'm drawing a blank. I think Washington was like 2-point favorites. I think
two
that
and a
they
half,
were
three by close. I think, yeah.
Yeah, and now Oregon 9.5 on a neutral field there. It's going to be interesting for sure. Excuse me. I mean, we'll have all week to talk about this. I'm just trying to multitask here. I took about a third back of this. Okay, great job. Great job. Congrats. You're a winner. Nice profit. I am glad we could help you there. Let's go over to Sunday for a second. You've been working with me for a long time now. I don't talk about refs, whether it's in the NBA, in the NFL, and they can throw a flag every play. I get that. And the stars are usually protected, and the QBs especially. Okay. I talked about a few weeks ago when Miami went into Philly on that primetime game, and Miami was flagged 10 times, and Philly wasn't flagged once. Not once. So in comes Buffalo, a must win. We had Buffalo plus 3.5 on our action parlay. We bought the hook, had them in the money line as well. And there is an absolute blatant horse collar on Josh Allen, and the refs turned the blind eye. And I think at one point it was like 10-2 or something in penalties, right? So then I get to Sunday night, and that Philly Buffalo game ends, and it almost was the lead-in. It almost started right on, almost finished and went right to the Sunday night game. And the Chargers take the opening kickoff, drive all the way down, and Justin Herbert runs out of bounds and clearly gets knocked on his ass while he's out of bounds. And that's setting up a 1st and goal from the 3. Now, I'm not going to say they're going to score a touchdown, but they would have scored a touchdown, okay? So the difference between 7-0 and 3-0. Now, listen, I know Baltimore for the most part, I don't want to say dominated the game, but they played well, and their defense is not the Ray Lewis defense, but they're good, and they're rounding into form. And because of their division, let me see, no Deshaun Watson, no Joe Burrow, no DTR now, and you got Kenny Pickett, or should I call him Kenny Spickett? But the fact of the matter is they got that wrapped up, and they're looking at the number 1 spot. But Riley, am I wrong? I mean, 2 of the most blatant calls, both on national TV, both in the spotlight, and they turn a blind eye.
No, the Josh Allen horse collar. I watched so much football and basketball from Wednesday to Sunday, so I need a refresher on certain ones. So I don't remember exactly what point in the game that was. And obviously the Justin Herbert one was early, but like you said, it's almost one of those ones you almost laugh at because it's so bad. And whenever the other team is, you got 5 guys trying to fight the dude that did it. Probably a decent indicator that he either was late or did something a little cheap shotty. So, and then I think am I wrong? Did the Chargers get penalized for the retaliation? I believe. Am I wrong? Yes, I think so, right? Which you obviously have to. It's usually the second guy that gets the flag. I mean, that's the old adage 100% of the time. But they're absolutely, that was ridiculous. 100% of the way, that was ridiculous. I'm with you on that one. And shoot, it was a long line. Even last night. I mean, last night and tonight a little different case with the makeup of these teams. But you get to a point where it's 11-3 to the favorites going into last night, and the 9-3, 8-3 Ravens are -3 favorites against a struggling Chargers team. I'm sure a lot of people were playing that angle of it. So I 100% see it. And if there is any type of cahoots, I'm hoping the agenda is that they want to get Brandon Staley fired so that the Chargers can be more relevant going forward. Then I can accept the BS no calls or calls, whatever. If the agenda is to get Brandon Staley fired, I'm mostly kidding, but we've obviously talked about it before. But no, I mean, Chargers now at 4-7 there. If this was the NFC and the Chargers were 4-7, you could make the case that they could run the table, get hot with Justin Herbert and whatnot. But I mean, they're as good as dead in the AFC at 4-7 with how many teams are between them and Russell's Colts, as he mentioned there. Not to mention 3 other teams that are 6-5.
Yeah, and we've talked at length about the coaching carousel, and I was on Fox Sports Radio. Thank you, Bernie Fratto, Sunday morning at 4:30 a.m. And talking about Bill Belichick and his next destination. And from all that I have heard, it's pretty much he's done here in New England, obviously, and that it will be the Commanders, Annapolis, Washington D.C. Ron Rivera will be out. I don't know what happens to Bieniemy. I have said all along, if Bieniemy gets his head coaching gig or moves somewhere else, I assume that Bill might pick up the phone and call Josh. I don't know that. But today, Frank Reich, 1-11, gets the heave-ho. And the sad case? Frank Reich wanted C.J. Stroud. Frank Reich wanted C.J. Stroud. And it was the GM that wanted Bryce Young. Yet it's Frank Reich now that's out the door, 1-11. And when I was talking to Bernie late last week, 2 more teams were added. They're trying to say the Chargers and the Commanders for Bill, and then I saw the Panthers and potentially Tampa Bay. And the fact is, that Carolina, making the move now, again, opening the gates. And I'll just say this, Jim Harbaugh, whether it's in the semifinals, in the finals, or winning the national championship, will be dropping the mic. The shit is going to hit the fan in Michigan. Like Pete Carroll in USC, Pete was in the NFL. Harbaugh will be in the NFL. And Harbaugh, they're saying Las Vegas, no. I know the guy in LA, the Chargers, doesn't write checks, but when you got a Justin Herbert and you have a team like that, you will write a check for Harbaugh. If you don't, he'll be over in Chicago.
No, 100%. And just to talk about that, if you're the Chargers, if you're not writing checks like that, then go the hell back to San Diego, for God's sakes. I mean, if you're the NFL and you want to build up these LA franchises and give us some legitimate fans in there, cut the damn check for the man. I told you I agree with you as far as those 2 options. I think it's between those 2 teams. If Vegas had a better, brighter future and had if Justin Herbert was in Vegas, then I might say, yeah, he's got a good chance of going to Vegas. But obviously they might cut a check. But if we're talking a bidding war, but what future are you selling Jim Harbaugh and the Raiders right now, at least? But I'm with you, and obviously I don't want him coming to Chicago because I have a lot of respect for him, and I would be upset to see him in Chicago there as a Packers fan. But I do think it's between those 2 teams. I would be shocked if it was Washington instead. They obviously, again, if we're talking about a bidding war, it wouldn't shock me if the Washington new ownership group was cutting a big check for him. But I'm with you as far as it being between those 2 teams there for old Harbaugh there. As far as any of these other situations here, the one that a lot of teams or a lot of people were penciling into the playoffs with everything that's going on, but now only a 1-game lead, and they've got the Cowboys on Thursday night here, at the Niners the following week, home for the Eagles the following week after that. The next 3 games for the Seattle Seahawks now at 6-5, followed by some winnable games after that, but no pushovers necessarily there. But Has the panic button been officially pressed in Seahawk Nation here?
Yes, and hats off to Ron Marmolevsky, who comes on Fridays for the closing bell. I asked him because the Niners are playing the Eagles this week in Philly. It's amazing how Philly has all these big time games and they're all at home. Can you travel on the road? Actually, they beat Kansas City in Kansas City. But my point here is Ron had San Fran 1.5-point favorites, and I was like, wow, in Philly, that and sure enough, I saw a overnight of a pick 'em, but I'm seeing San Fran as high as 2.5-point favorites right now at Philly on Sunday. So Seattle got a heavy dose of San Fran, and they're cooking with Crisco right now. You think about the Eagles had to travel to Kansas City on a Monday night, come back home to face the Bills. Oh, and both of those games, they came from back in the fourth quarter to win the game, and then yesterday in overtime, and now going to face the Niners with quote unquote a healthy quarterback. So I do like the 49ers side. That's a tough 3 games. Yes. So as the Cowboy fans and nation, rooting for Kansas City to win, rooting for Buffalo to win, rooting now for the 49ers because, with the Cowboys win at home, they can try to grab that division. But getting back to the Seahawks, yes. Geno's not healthy, and they don't have any faith in Drew Lock. Their running game is banged up. They got Charbonnet right now, but Walker's banged up. DK Metcalf is nicked up. It was like watching the Charger game last night. And I think, what's his name there? Keenan Allen. 15 targets, 14 catches. I mean, a huge Herbert fan. They have no one else. They got pizza pan hands, one catch, and then he tried to catch one in the middle and he got knocked out. Then he limped over. They brought Guyton back. Guyton couldn't catch the ball. Everett made a couple catches, and they used Eckler a few times. But just looking at the offense, other than that 3rd and 17 and the pass to Eckler, and then he throws it on the sidelines to Allen, they have no offense.
No, and you and I mean, we need somebody else to convince who's not a Justin Herbert believer to be on these shows, because you and I are on the same page with this team and Justin Herbert here and everyone involved, because Keenan Allen is still a stud. Congrats to him for having the season he's had after some injuries in the past. But you're right, and the way that we talked about it already, we don't need to go too far down the road. But Austin Eckler, if he's not hurt, then they're doing this offense a disservice by not utilizing him in the passing game instead of, like if he is hurt, they're throwing up his, increasing his volume of carries. I guess I don't know what he had last night, but anyways, because I'm a believer in Eckler, but you obviously have a certain way that you need to use him. And, again, if he's hurt, like we've talked about in the past, then that's obviously one thing. But no, it's getting ugly over there. And let alone their defense, who actually, maybe played the best game of their season last night, their defense there, because that Ravens offense obviously did not look that fantastic, which is interesting because this Ravens defense has been fantastic, and there was obviously 2 or 3 games where the Ravens offense was starting to look really good with Lamar. There's been 2 or 3 of the last few games here where Lamar has not looked fantastic and this offense hasn't looked fantastic. Obviously, no Mark Andrews, so that pushes them back a little bit here, but I don't know. I'm sold on how good this Ravens defense is. Like you said, not 2000 Ravens defense necessarily, or even 2011 when they won, maybe closer to that. But it's still very good. But this offense has to get going more consistently for me to really believe in them that they can upset, or whether you believe it's an upset or not, or whether it's going on the road or the Chiefs coming to town, whatever it might be. Need a little more consistency from their offense for me to really believe that they're, that true Super Bowl contender like they are, because they are a very good team, but need some more consistency offensively.
I was talking to a colleague today about that, and as you said, you got to beat the Chiefs. You got to beat Patrick Mahomes. Fourth quarter, need a score. You're not going to believe in Jackson's arm, maybe his legs, versus, Mahomes with the ball. And even as bad as his wide receivers are, Rashee Rice finally coming around a little better. Justin Watson again scores the first touchdown. No, actually Pacheco, then Watson, I think it was. But I had something where I was going to go. Oh, this is a classic. My fantasy football team, one of my bazillion of them, and you can't make this up. And I don't think anyone caught this one. Zay Flowers was in charge. I guess each week the Ravens, and I assume most teams do, take one player. They're in charge of the celebrations. Well, this past weekend, Zay Flowers was in charge of the celebrations. So it just happens that Zay scored, and then he does the flower toss or the bouquet toss for his first touchdown. And they're running out the clock, Riley. It's 3rd and 7 or whatever it was, with a minute and a half to go. The Chargers have one timeout. Okay. I can't make this up. Hollywood couldn't have scripted this. I had a 9.35 lead. And I was going up against Zay Flowers. And so they get him the ball, run a run, and he gets the first down. Now, you know this. This is football 101. You got the first down. The Chargers have one timeout. You're supposed to slide and go down because the game's over. The game is officially over. So this jackass scored. So when you add 3.7 for the 37 yards and 6 points for the touchdowns, that's 9.7 yards. They beat us on that play.
Oh,
I can't script that. I'm screaming at. I had to go back to the computer and check, and I was like, no, that couldn't have just happened. That just could not have happened. Yeah, 37 yards is 3.7, and 6 for the touchdown is 9.7, and we had a 9.35 lead. It was like it was scripted. And so Mr. Lucky tweeted it out. Sorry, Mr. Dawson, with a picture of Staley. And I retweeted to him. I was like, Zay's supposed to go down. And I think he might have got a coach or someone came into his ear. Yeah. I mean, the Chargers now have one timeout, a minute and a half to go, and 10 points. They still had a chance versus him just going down to the ground, and they had no chance. So, Zay, it isn't so. You just got taken off my Christmas card list. You knocked us out of the playoffs. But and before we go on to tonight's game, quickly, the Patriots lose to Danny DeVito. Their 3rd round or 4th round kicker that they drafted missed a 35-yarder. Riley, I'd bet on you to make a 35-yarder. They go into New York and lose. 6-point underdogs this week to Justin Herbert and the Chargers. It's officially over. And I guess the team didn't know till Sunday morning who was starting. So just, and it pained me to watch Bill at the press conference. It looked like he was going to cry. And Mac Jones looks like he's going to cry. These guys are they're done. They're physically, mentally, spiritually spent. It's over. I would rather, if they want to give Bailey Zappi a chance, fine. I would rather go Will Grier, Malik Cunningham for the rest of the year. And I know they cut Will Grier, but just let these other guys sit, cashing checks. But before I go, we go to the Chicago Bears in Minnesota. You deserve a few minutes to talk about your Packers. Do you believe? I mean, Jordan Love looked fabulous. Actually, there was a Christian Watson sighting, his best game of the year. Again, I know Aaron Jones was out. You got A.J. Dillon. Defense playing good. And my biggest concern, how were you going to slow down Aiden Hutchinson and the front 7 of the Lions? It was the Packers' front 7 that raised holy hell to Goff. And so it's funny. Everyone wanted to pinpoint that on Goff. It was his offensive line that did him dirty. So congratulations.
Well, thank you. And it's interesting. When you go back, I remember they beat the Rams. The Packers beat the Rams, and that was kind of the start of the de facto start of them turning things around a little bit. They ended up losing to the Steelers after that. But the game against the Rams, they beat up on a third-string essentially a third-string quarterback. Their defense controls the game. It was 10-3 for a lot of it. It was disgusting. I was not pleased after that one. They ended up pulling that one out. And then the following week against the Steelers, defensively, the run game defense against that, and ultimately anything that keeps us from that extra, that next level, if we can stay at what we are. The run defense obviously is suspect when it comes to a real legitimate. Sometimes not even on a legitimate. I mean, the Steelers' run game obviously has been abysmal, and they handled us and made Najee Harris look like the guy that he meant to be. But anyways, getting sidetracked off that. The offense in that game against the Steelers, despite the loss, was the most, so showing signs of life of some consistency that we've been looking for that we didn't have. And then obviously, Chargers game, a little kind of the same thing. Handled Chargers a little bit better than the Steelers there at home. And then just a really full phase, 4 quarters for the most part game against the Lions that we've been begging for, obviously. And you mentioned Christian Watson. As far as, that next level of maybe this isn't fluky. I'm not saying the Packers are going to sneak up on anybody and make a crazy deep playoff run. I'm not saying that. They obviously still are going to have to scratch and claw to get into the playoffs if that's, an option. But Christian Watson did come to life, especially in the first quarter the other day. And he's obviously made a play here and there this season, but it was the most, string of plays and actually being a factor. Had a fantastic first quarter, came back. I don't remember what point in the game he had a touchdown catch, but had a touchdown catch. So that is extremely, extremely encouraging as far as that is concerned, as far as Love finding him, finding some chemistry, and Christian Watson gaining some confidence there. So, I think the added level of optimism is that the offensive line, as you mentioned, has been playing better. And I mentioned that going into the Lions game, which is completely different from the first time. You go into that stretch against the Lions and the Raiders, and I'm like, you know what? Jordan Love hasn't been great against pressure. If we face some pressure, it could get ugly. And then Aiden Hutchinson, followed by Max Crosby, wreak havoc on our offensive line. From that point, and maybe a couple weeks after that, but the last handful of weeks, this offensive line is not flawless by any means, but it's looked a lot better, and it hasn't been, obviously it's given up a sack here and there, but it hasn't been any points where you feel overmatched like you did in those couple of games there against early lines in that Raiders game against Max Crosby, who was an absolute menace in that game. So that is definitely a point of optimism, and hopefully you feel like you can get healthier here. I don't know what the chance of Aaron Jones coming back. Jair Alexander, who is kind of creeping on, your list of dudes who collect a paycheck. I don't know. Obviously, don't want to speculate, but has had a back injury without too many details going on for a little too long now after getting paid this offseason. But nonetheless, obviously, the other point of optimism, though, is yes, you have a very tough Chiefs game. I wouldn't shock me if the Packers snuck up and gave them a game there. Another good measuring stick for where their offense is. It's an offense, Chiefs defense that's obviously looked, pretty good. If they continue that and Jordan Love's looks anywhere like he's done the last couple of weeks, then we're going to keep feeling optimistic here. But beyond that, even if they lose to the Chiefs here on Sunday night, they finish with the Giants, the Bucks, the Panthers, the Vikings, and the Bears. So you feel like even worst case, I shouldn't say worst case. Worst case is they lose a few of those games, but even optimistically, a bad case is them going 9-8. At that 3-6, I think a lot of us would have signed up for a 6-2 finish and having a legitimate shot at catching one of these two teams in the NFC, which we talked about. The Seahawks, who a lot of people are penciling in, even a week or so ago before that Lions game. If I was thinking optimistically, well, if we're winning this game and go on a run, we're going to need the Vikings to lose a couple. You look at the Seahawks after losing the other day in a couple of day ones, games that we talked about, these next 3 that they have. You feel good that the Seahawks aren't going to be better than 9-8 at this point. Maybe they will be. Obviously, could pull off an upset. But between the Vikings and the Seahawks, you feel good that one of them will fall potentially to a 9-8, if not worse. And so that last spot, whether it's 9-8. That might get it. I would be shocked if 10 wins doesn't get it done there. So, I think they'll have a great chance to go on a run after this Chiefs game if they can't win this game. So, you just need a little more consistency from that defense, who've obviously shown flashes. You mentioned the pass rush. Rashawn Gary was awesome in that game. He is, the guy that kind of has to be that good week in and week out, or close to that good, making those types of plays or big sacks, whatnot, for this defense to go to a level that we needed to go. And we've seen that happen at the end of the season these last couple of years. So feel good, even if they lose to the Chiefs, feel good about the matchups coming up. So, it's not crazy to think that this team, if they either will make the playoffs at the end of it or will have a game or two do or die the last couple of weeks of the season to potentially get themselves in there or at least have a chance there. So, the tides have turned, to say the least, at least a little bit here for sure in Packerland.
And to go quickly over to the AFC for a second, the team that most people wrote off 5 weeks ago. Now, the trivia question is, who has the longest winning streak in the NFL right now? You would say who?
The longest winning streak. Oh, you know what? I should have known. I've had action on this team a couple of times. It is the Denver Broncos, I believe.
5 in a row. They have now won 5 in a row, and another cheap shot there. DTR throwing the ball away, and he just gets his lip ripped off, and he won't be back. So again, even their defense. Their defense only could take so much, but hats off to Sean Payton. Hats off to Russell Wilson. Their defense is playing a lot better the last 5 weeks. And I don't want to say the emergence of Cortland Sutton. I just want to say how he's taken over the number one role over there. Jerry Jeudy is just MIA on a milk carton. They should have gotten whatever they could have before the trade deadline. So I don't think Jeudy will be back next year. They'll probably move him, but hats off there. And probably one of the better games next week, Riley, on Sunday. Denver at Houston. Houston 59-yarder just missed for the win of the tie last night. But now they're going to try. Yeah, they're going to bounce back against a red-hot Denver team. But Vegas making a statement here with the Texans -3 there. So great wrap-up as always. Only took 43 minutes this week. We condensed it. It wasn't an hour. Tonight, 8:15, rotation number 273, 274. Chicago Bears at Minnesota. My true numbers, Minnesota -4 with a 46. Now at circa. Vikings 3 with a 43.5. My 2 cents on this, I'll go to the team totals here. Chicago 20 and a hook under -122. Minnesota 23.5 under -118. Again, we talked about the primetime unders at 11-2. Vegas is telling me this is 23-20 all day. I thought the number smelt all week. I thought this was a Bears number. Dobbs has done amazing work. Oh, and the shocker, breaking news, Justin Jefferson won't play. Geez, we knew as soon as he went on the IR, he wasn't going to at least come back till after the bye, which is next week here. But my take here, if you like, I think the Bears are sneaky. I think Dante Foreman's out. You see a big dosage of Khalil Herbert, Roshan Johnson, the Fields, and DJ Moore train has been looking good. We know their defense isn't good. On the other side, Dobbs, Hawkinson, Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne. I think it'll be a fun game, but I'm leaning Bears in the upset. Get the 3.5. If you want some beer and pizza money, go the team total over 20.5. Hopefully you get to 21 and more. Before I give out a couple anytime touchdowns, and I'll give out the first touchdown like we did last week with Justin Watson, but I'll turn it over to you.
No, I think we're kind of on the same page for the most part here, and it's really not, the whole is an underdog do thing, like that is in my brain for sure. But like you said, this number has been stinky, and I saw something that I wanted to reiterate from someone that I really respect on Gam Twitter. As far as talking about the 12-3 mentality or the situation with all these favorites and saying you should still look at this game as an individual game. Don't just bet on the Bears because they're due. And I completely agree with that. And he said, now if the number was 80% of money on the Vikings and it was coming down to 2 with that factor, then that might be a different story. But it's stuck right at 3. And I 100% agree with where his thought process was. But like you said, that 3 was stinky before the Packers and the Cowboys and the Seahawks and all these teams I shouldn't have included the Packers. The Packers were obviously one of the dogs, but you understand what I'm saying. That number was stinky before all of these games started, so it's still stinky right now today. I was on the Broncos against the Vikings this past week in Denver. It's an interesting case because I was very, the Vikings hit rock bottom, and I was like, don't sleep on the Vikings. Here they come. They've got an easy part of their schedule coming up. And they raced back into the playoff picture, obviously. And now the Joshua Dobbs train has gotten a little too overhyped, in my opinion. And now I'm kind of on the opposite end of, I think the Vikings still have a great shot of making the playoffs. They got to, if they go 2-1 in this next 3 stretch, they still got a great shot of making the playoffs. But the Josh Dobbs train has gotten a lot of hand here. And so with all of those factors going on, the fact that it's still sticking right at 3, had it gone to 3.5, 4, I might have respected that move a little bit there, but I'm with you as far as thinking this Bears team is at least sneaky. Would it surprise me if the Vikings, continued the trend and they won by 10-14 and handled this Bears team? It wouldn't shock me. But at the end of the day, you have a Bears team who isn't. Are they in the take-a-thon to some degree? Sure, but they have the Carolina Panthers number. But if not 1, it's going to be 2 or 3. And so you have a little bit of that free leeway with a young quarterback where you want to win some damn games. And so they're going to be motivated against this divisional opponent here. We've seen a lot of divisional upsets happen in the last couple of weeks here that you're not really expecting here. And the other part of it is, as much as the Vikings have won, I don't know how many in a row they won against the Bears. I was surprised that the Bears haven't been able to grab one these last couple of years here. But their games have always been very, very close. And so if the Bears are able to move the ball a little bit and protect the ball, I think they're going to have a really great chance of winning this game here. And, their defense, credit to the defense. Last year I won a lot of money on betting the opposing team's team total overs early part of this season, a little bit so. But this defense has been a lot better these last handful of weeks. Some not as much on paper, but there's some really, really good performances here, and their run defense has turned things around. So, not as much of a slouch defense as was 8 weeks ago, certainly not a year ago. So I am with you as far as thinking the Bears team is very live here tonight.
All right, here we go. I will give you the who will score the first touchdown this week. Last Monday, we were fortunate enough, Justin Watson, plus 3,000 at some spots, 2,500 at another. Scored the first touchdown for the Chiefs. I'm going to shock the world again here, Riley. I'm sticking to the Bears. I'm staying away from the chalk. Tell me what the number is. First TD scored tonight, Chicago Bears, Darnell Mooney.
Darnell Mooney, not a bad selection. I like that one. 25-1 for the first touchdown, my friend. 4-1 for any time.
So Darnell Mooney, first score. That will be the play today. On the I'll give one more Bears, and I don't know, anytime touchdown, and I bet you his first touchdown is it's not super high, but I think Justin Fields will find the end zone today as well.
I don't hate that as well. I think that's a good one. His first touchdown is 10-1 plus 1,000, plus 165 for the anytime. So I kind of like that as well. He's a situation where he's I don't know how many he's got this season, but it's obviously nowhere near what he had last year. So I definitely think it's a good point where you could definitely start. He's only got 1 rushing touchdown this year, and still plus 165. So definitely a good point to start hammering that, I think. The other guy, and I know sometimes it's kind of a, if I have to choose one, sometimes I really, really, really mean it. But I really like the Bears' backup running back in Roschon Johnson. And in today's case, you've got Khalil Herbert, who's not as much of a goal line back. So I actually really like Roschon Johnson. I know I come with a backup running back all the time, but there's a handful of cases where I am dead serious, and I do think some of these teams' backup running backs are really good, and especially in goal line situations, like Roschon Johnson. Not so much for a first touchdown scorer, just any time for that one, or even yards there. And then, I would like Cole Kmet, but Cole Kmet's numbers were a heck of a lot better. At least I don't have him on paper. I didn't, break it down. I want to say his numbers were a heck of a lot better with Tyson Bagent than they are with Justin Fields, at least this season. So I'm going to stay away from Cole Kmet, although he does get a nice little leak out from time to time. So I'll go Roshan Johnson, and then I'll go with a nice game. You know what? I'll go a little – it's not quite chalky, but I'll go with a nice game from Jordan Addison tonight for the Vikings side of it and go maybe some yards and a receiving touchdown for Jordan Addison tonight.
Yeah, and on the Minnesota side, if my memory serves me correctly, the Bears against the tight end usually doesn't end well. I know the chalk on the Minnesota side will be a Hawkinson anytime touchdown. What is that one?
Hawkinson, yeah, that is plus 150. I think he's got the best odds here tonight.
And so one with a little more grease to it. You talked about Addison, obviously. I'll say KJ Osborne finds an anytime touchdown. What is his odds?
Anytime 330, not bad at all. Plus 330.
Not bad at all there. And obviously you are a big Bears fan today, so I'll be rooting for you there as well. There.
Hey, you know what I
One,
will
two,
say?
three,
As much
four,
as
five.
I am, it's all right. As much as I am leaning pretty heavily towards the Bears side of things, I will state now that I for the service of the Packers needing the Vikings to get a loss, I won't be actually putting my money down as much as I do kind of feel like I want to, because my record on picking Bears games on the spread, I've had a lot more success team totals and whatnot. Going back to last year, picking Bears for or against on the spread, the last 2-3 years, it is far and away my worst record of any team possible. Anytime I bet on them, they lose by 20, and they look like the dumpster fire that they've been. So I will say I won't be on them tonight officially. I will go with a strong lean on them outside of that. So I apologize for interrupting you, but it's worth mentioning because, man, have I been a mush whenever I bet on the Bears.
And I'll just say this, at Pinnacle, at Penny, whatever you want to call it, 3 even is the number right now, which tells me, obviously, that the Bears plus the 3 is minus 115, which tells me the next move looks like it's going to 2.5. So anyone that's got the Bears plus the 3, go grab the hook, get them at 3.5. We won the Bills that way. We should have won the Chargers that way if Zay didn't have a brain cramp there. But it is what it is there. Like I said, you can get them to get to 21. Listen, I'm not one of those guys that ever sells anyone or promotes a 20 and a hook because they're begging you to take it to 21. That's what your number is. I mean, the Bears get to 21, you're a winner. I mean, 3 touchdowns will probably get stuck on stupid and get 2 or 3 field goals there and be stuck on 20, and Justin will need a drive late. But I just got the feeling, Justin on primetime last year came to New England. I think it was week 3 or week 5. Their only win, and then they lost the rest of their games, and he put up like a 30-plus burger against the Patriots when the Patriots were 9-point favorites. So he likes the spotlight. He's back. He's healthy. Him and DJ Moore have been in, the exacta combo at your Chinese food restaurant there for the last few weeks. They get and Komet. They all work well together. So I just like the Bears today. Will I be running to the window and, mortgage in the house? No, I don't. But I think it's a good matchup for them.
Yep, 100%. And the best game they played this year against Washington was Thursday Night Football. So, and I believe the Sunday night game against the Chargers was not Justin Fields. So I'm with you as far as so far the small sample size. He and this team has showed up in primetime there. So I believe you were directing me over to the NBA tonight, my friend, before I cut you off there. 5 games, I want to say here. A couple that are worth watching, a couple not so much. One, I don't have strong thoughts on it, but a crazy high total. Portland and Indy, 12-point favorites. Indy at home against Portland, 240 or so on the game total there. These Pacers games are flying over. That's actually a little lower than the last few games that we've seen from them, so maybe this one actually stays under. Last 3 totals, 252.5, 242, and 245.5, and they've all gone over, and now we're at 240. Maybe we're in for a paint dry and a 235 finish tonight. I don't know, but they've got the Blazers in town, who actually got a win a couple days, a week or so ago, I guess. They're 4-12. Did just cover a 13 at Milwaukee. does feel like I wouldn't go. I'm not trying to get myself into this game, but I think the Pacers probably take care of business. But maybe that one's one to avoid on the over. I don't know. Lakers and Philly. Philly -5 on the spread tonight. 231 and a half on that total there. Obviously, a game where you always got to check out the injury list. It looks like these guys are okay tonight. I shouldn't say okay. It looks like they are going to be playing tonight. Of course, I think they're always typically okay. Whether or not they're playing is the factor they always talk about, obviously. But Lakers playing pretty good ball right now, as well as Philly. A couple losses finally after their nice stretch. Get back on the horse with a win this weekend. It seems like a fairly higher total than what these teams have been in for. So I'll lean towards the over on this. What probably is the most watched game out of the NBA slate tonight.
Shout out to Marty Lowe, Roll Tide. He texted me yesterday. Yesterday and talked about the miracle in the Iron Bowl. And I says, well, for all the Alabama fans, don't waste it and get your ass handed to you on Saturday. This game, it now means something. Winning, you're in the Final Four. Don't lay an egg here, please. But thank you so much, Marty, for showing up. I want to go back to, you talked about the Pacers. That 250 total last week, me and Anthony were in the compound. We were live for Sports Map Radio. And I was like, shit. He goes, what's wrong? I was like, I had a brain fart. I was like, the Pacers over-under was 250 today, which is an outlier, which usually means it flies over. He goes, 250? They scored 311 points that game. 311 points. And so I was like, dear. So you're right. It's probably going to be a paint dry. Marty says Auburn fans calling it a disaster on the pastor. Yeah, that was definitely a disaster there. I said, Marty, earlier in the show, if you got 100 shots at that, you would have completed it once, and that's all you needed to there. So, no, I agree with you there. My board has one game, bright red, and that's the Nuggets catching 7 against the Clippers at the Clip Joint. And I don't even know why they're playing this, because when I get my mouse over there, Riley, you'll be happy to hear this one, that come on. And now it doesn't want to, oh, there it is. Jokic out, Gordon out, Murray out. They're all out. Back, heel, hamstring. So I guess Denver taking the night off. And I saw last week's, not to digest here, or digress, I should say. I saw the Joker get not one but 2 texts. He was chirping at the refs here. Is it me, or does he seem to be a little frustrating or disengaged compared to last year?
I think they kind of came out of the gates really nicely, but now these last few weeks, it does seem like it kind of setting in that, there's not the same hunger, and also, what is it? You got 5 months before you play real meaningful basketball, and they know that they're going to be playing meaningful basketball. So, no, it does seem kind of like that. And followed by a quick departure here against a West team that is starting to play better here is certainly interesting. They when was their last game? Did they play? Let's see. Was that last night? They did play last night, so I guess back-to-back situation. But nonetheless, no, they're obviously punting on this one, and they've got. I haven't been able to follow. You got the in-season tournament coming up for whatever that's worth, the actual in-season tournament. So I don't know. He is disengaged for sure, but no, it's a crapshoot as far as that is concerned. And obviously, we'll get to the in-season tournament and see what those guys want to do. Like I said, those games have at least been a little more interesting to watch than the average regular season game. But what does it matter other than that is another question, and you could argue that it's devaluing, maybe not devaluing, but putting even less incentive and less good games on paper on these non-in-season tournament group play games, on your random Monday games where guys appear to be even less engaged than they typically are for a random Monday game in November. So I think they'll probably keep trying to do some type of thing for the in tournament, but they got to refigure something out as far as next year is concerned.
I just got a couple beeps. Shout out to Jeffrey Benson at the Circa. I had asked him because of their odds with Michigan plus 185 and Alabama 195 if he was insinuating that Michigan would be a pick'em against Georgia. He says, no, we aren't saying that. Michigan has a much easier road with respect to conference championship games. So, Mr. Benson, love you to death. Thank you so much for your quick reply there. Always a pleasure to talk to you there. You know something? I caught wind of, I think it was LeBron, and they were asking him about the in-season championship. I mean, the mid-season tournament games. If it wasn't LeBron, I apologize. It was a big star, though. And he goes, well, 500,000, or maybe it was Steph Curry. Well, when you got $500,000 each on the line, you might get a little peaked up for it. That's what some of these guys. There were guys in the NBA that make $700,000 a game, Riley. They, those are those super max $55-60 million contracts.
I don't know. Did I lose you? This might be on me. I don't know if it's on you. I don't know. Righty. Jeff's computer went down. And mine is not doing too well either. Thank you all for stopping by. This was a fun recap show. Obviously, we were kind of winding down anyways, if you can hear me here. So thank you all for stopping by. We will have shows the rest of this week, every single day this week. I know I will be on the closing bell the rest of this week. And beyond that, I believe we'll have a full slate of shows as per usual on these other days. So stick tuned with us. Stay tuned with us. And we will rock and roll and see y'all later. Thank you all for stopping by. I hope you'll have a fantastic evening watching some action tonight. And we will see y'all soon.